At a time of year when people allow themselves to become nostalgic, Maud Lewis's Christmas paintings and Christmas cards hit home. She captures the warm excitement of children and sleighs, horses and snowdrifts in delightful, familiar vignettes of rural life. Painting these happy scenes was the artist, crippled by arthritis and living in a cold and tiny house on the side of the road in Marshalltown. Lance Woolaver has been fascinated by Maud Lewis since childhood and has spent much of his adult life researching and writing about her work. Bob Brooks is the photographer who spent a day with Maud and her husband back in February of '65, and whose images reveal a side of her life that you can't see in her paintings.
You came in, and here's this little person in the corner, and never let me in, and I announced what I was doing. No other way I could tell him. This is a Star Weekly sent me. Would you mind? And this is real cold. But there she is in the corner, and she kind of tittered behind her. She kind of puts her hand up and laughs. And well, you don't want my picture, you know. No, and I said, I said something funny, and she laughed, and so it was right all day long with her. So it was great.
That day in February was cold, and snow covered the ground, much like it does in many of the Christmas scenes throughout the book. In fact, snowy scenes and Christmas themes were Maud Lewis's very first works of art.
The old story that Maud learned from her mother by painting Christmas cards turned out to be true. The early works that she did with her mother, Agnes, which are often signed Dowley, and with a very elaborate Greek E in reverse, Maud gave herself an E to her name. And utilizing a very elaborate style of penmanship that she had learned in grade 5 in Yarmouth's Central Town School. And these early Christmas cards, we put one on the cover. It's absolutely beautiful. Then the later cards that she did in Digby, and the Christmas paintings that she did under the supervision of Everett, they're larger, they're more flat, they're more primitive. And while they're delightful, I'm afraid my heart is with those early cards that she did down in Yarmouth.
Some of the Maud Lewis standard themes appear in this book with a distinctly Christmas look.
She employed a kind of magic brush to tip or touch a lot of the Christmas paintings with gold paint and silver paint. The funny thing is that the silver paint was aluminum paint that they used to protect their stove. It was stove paint. So when you see a Maud Lewis Christmas card and it's got silver on it, it's not silver paint, it's aluminum stove paint. And when we see the stove restored, eventually at the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia, you'll see that silver paint not only on the Christmas cards, but on the stove.
Despite her apparent love for the Christmas season, Lance Woolaver believes that nostalgia may have met the cruel face of reality in the little painted house.
Christmas with Maud actually had a very unhappy aspect, and she wrote rather beseeching letters to her friends in Yarmouth asking for a visit. And in our book, Christmas with Maud Lewis, there's a lovely letter that Maud wrote to her friends saying, "Could you come and visit me for this special Sunday?" And then a bit later in her correspondence, we found the return letter saying, "I'm terribly sorry, we're too busy, we can't come up, but here's $1 for a tray, which we sold for you in Yarmouth, and we hope to see you soon." So I think there was an aspect of loneliness in Maud's Christmas, and there was an aspect of a commercial rigor that she had to do this work and get it out and get it sold. It's amazing to me that her joyous spirit could still be in the actual work that she did, because there was a Charles Dickens aspect of loneliness about her Christmas.
She would be a real role model today. A lot of us. No, she'd be on the banquet circuit if she was able in this day and age, of boosting people's spirits, morale. And, she was that type, but you wouldn't know it at the time.
Maud, despite all the difficult things which happened in her life, I think that Maud never gave up faith in the world as a wonderful place. She enjoyed it, and she was able to give us that spirit in her paintings. So if we could take inspiration and remember that despite what may happen to you, the world is still a wonderful place.
House of Flowers, a play about Maud Lewis, written by Lance Woolaver and George Boyd, will air on CBC Radio 1 on Boxing Day at noon. It will be repeated December 27th on CBC Radio 2, also at noon.